We saw a lot of meme coin trades opened up over the course of the weekend, and the question many may be wondering at least is this a sign of a cycle top, or is there still an opportunity to become a meme coin millionaire? So we'll have a look at the markets today, all things Bitcoin, all things crypto, and smash the like button, hit the bell notification, and subscribe to the channel if you're not already subscribed. It is currently, of course, on the hourly, a sea of red. We're currently experiencing a pullback. If you look on the daily, also daily down, but the weekly is still very, very, very bullish. Remember, the trend is your friend till the end of that trend, and the weekly trends do remain towards the upside, with some massive gainers having come in, of course, from the meme coin sector. You can see MOG up 62%. We also have Hype, which recently came out 55% straight out of the gates over there. Our Jasmy trade still up massively, 48% of there. So you are putting in a little bit of a pullback with some profit taking. And the question is it going to be quickly absorbed? And we also have to ask ourselves about the signs and the symptoms of a market cycle top, because we are seeing a lot of these things, right? If you look at the tweet over here from Master, one of the clearest signs of a looming macro top is going to be when the world's largest corporations begin signaling their intention to add Bitcoin to their balance sheets, right? When giants start inviting retail investors into the hype, it's often a signal that the smart money is already positioning themselves to exit. And we definitely are starting to see things like this. If you look at Anthony Pompliano's tweet, which just came out, he said tomorrow morning, meaning now today, we'll find out which public companies were buying Bitcoin last week. Always a very, very fun reveal, right? And then you also have the Amazon shareholders proposing to Amazon that they propose a 5% Bitcoin treasury and add it. You can see over there adding Bitcoin to their treasury. Shareholders request that the board conduct an assessment to determine if adding Bitcoin to the company's treasury is in the best long-term interest of shareholders. So some of these signs and symptoms of a market cycle top, but the question is it over yet, right? You also have this article coming out, Microsoft could make history now coming up this week, basically a shareholders vote on whether to add Bitcoin to the balance sheet, a decision that could ripple across corporate America. So absolutely huge over there. And then also this, right? This as well, if you can see over here, still too much blue on there, right? This is essentially Bitcoin, the Bitcoin price chart overlaid with all of the buys that MicroStrategy have done into Bitcoin, of course, led by Michael Saylor. And this is now for the 5th week in a row, as per Bitcoin Magazine. Every time that Michael Saylor posts this, usually he announced the next day, which would be today, that he is buying more, right? And that could be a little bit of a sign, right? Because if you do study the size of these allocations, well, what's interesting over here is if you look at this, shows the number of Bitcoin that had been purchased at each of the various different levels. This was the first amount was a large amount of Bitcoin, and then as you go up over here, you can see that one only 262 Bitcoin, but sometimes near the tops over here, he is buying exorbitant amounts. If you look at the next peak, 7,000 Bitcoin, that was at the exact cycle top over there, and then he did 15,400 Bitcoin, 55,550 Bitcoin. So the question is he marking a top similar to what occurred over here in 2021, where there were huge buys? Well, it's not to say that he's marking the top. It's just a question of who are going to be the next biggest buyers that are going to come in and continue this trajectory towards the upside, right? So you could get this massive gamma squeeze, as they call it, right? A gamma squeeze, meaning that all the countries, nation states, corporations, everything is jumping in, FOMOing in, institutional FOMO into Bitcoin, and that could create a parabolic advancement. But also, of course, if it is a greater fool theory, and you do essentially have this, then the giants start inviting retail investors into the hype, often signaling that smart money are exiting. So is that what's taking place? Well, we'll go through it in today's show. You can see the recent MicroStrategy buys over here have not marked the major top, right? But we have pushed above $100,000. Let's just see if we can get sustained momentum. There are a couple of metrics that we'll look at to continue to monitor that. And of course, we do also have extremely heated funding on the daily over here. If we zoom out and we look over the last 2 weeks, you can see how over the 2-week period it's heated up from the greens into now the extreme orange, showing the appetite for risk, right? Showing that a lot of the market are preemptively expecting a massive breakout and huge inflows to come into the market. So there's your relationship between, of course, the previous funding rates that we had last December, and then we had the flush in January, and then we peaked again in March, and then we flushed out for 8 months, and then only started to pick that up again in November. So the question is this repeating, right? Are we going to get another massive flush, or are we in the very, very start of a trending move? Let me know in the comments what you think. Also, vote in the poll. We're currently running a poll in the YouTube's comment section where I'd love to know your current allocation into meme coins, right? Since today I do want to focus a little bit on meme coins, since they have been the top performers. I'm going to showcase a couple of coins that I'm looking at and some of the positions that I'm currently building right now. The other thing that I do want to mention as well, while we're currently on here, there is a possibility, despite prices coming down, since the trend is towards the upside and the trend is your friend, that you could see a bit of a short squeeze, because you currently have 51.35% of the market running shorts and 48.65% running longs. And of course, we know what's happened in the previous times that we have seen that. The other thing that we can assess over here is the short-term bubble risk, to see, well, is Bitcoin currently in that bubble territory where we're expecting a blow-off top to occur? And all of these factors that we just outlined, where we saw Saylor create the prior tops alongside this tweet over here as well. Well, according to the short-term bubble risk, that is not the case at all, right? If we zoom into this period over here, you can see things have actually cooled off, going from this 1.5 to 1.75, dropping back down to the 1.25 to 1.5. What this yellow signal here means is it's business as usual, right? If we isolate the rest of these levels and we simply just go onto the yellows and we look at over the history of Bitcoin, you can see during these cycles over here, during the run-up periods, this is business as usual. The expectation would be that to mark off the top, you would see the extreme red, right? The extreme red should come into the market. If we reset the zoom quickly, there you can see it over there. All the price cycle tops, there we have it, extreme red. If we look at the cycle top that occurred, we had a double top in 2013, this one occurring in April, and then the ultimate one happening in December, extreme red over there, right? 2021 was or 2018 we should go to first, right? Exact top, extreme red over there, above 2. But the 2021 run was the interesting one, right? This was the interesting one because this one deviated slightly, and actually we had a double top scenario, slightly taking out the $65,000 highs. So 2021 was definitely a tricky year to time those cycle tops, right? If you look at the 1.75 up to above 2 on the risk levels, this indicated in every sense that this should have been the ultimate cycle top, right? So that would be the one data point that throws you off a little bit over there. But nevertheless, as it currently stands, well, we are experiencing the yellows, right? So we're currently sitting in the yellow, business as usual, trend in motion, and we would be expecting high prices. So a great tweet over here from 𝗕𝗬𝗕𝗓. I thought that I'd give him a shout out over there and share this. He says, I think we're in the media attention stage, right? And if you look at this is in terms of the stages that occur within a bubble. I think that you're more in the media adoption phase, where last cycle was the media attention phase. But in terms of looking at a cycle within a broader, large cycle over Bitcoin's history, then yes, you can call this the media attention phase, because it would look like this, right? 50 to 70K chop area, right? Where price was oscillating between $50,000 and $70,000. You lead into that first major sell-off. This was the bear trap, essentially where Bitcoin dropped down to $49,000. We covered that live. I think it was in August this year, where we hit the $49,000 mark and said this is very, very likely to be a massive bear trap, and you're probably going to expand very quickly out of there, right? We then started to expand very, very quickly out of there. So I believe we're probably somewhere around this media attention phase, just like he suggests. And the reason why is, he says, I think we're here now because people are still very, very scared to buy dips, right? When the prices are down like they are today, you don't see people aping into the market trying to buy dips. Instead, people are very, very fearful. And even if they were aping into buy dips, we would still then probably be in this enthusiasm stage, which means that we probably still have a little bit more to go. You can make the argument that you're somewhere between media attention and the early stages of greed, right? This is greed. This is when people start taking out mortgages, putting more in, selling their house, doing anything possible to raise money. I could make the argument that, maybe some of the smart money are really starting to enter into the greed phase where, they're trying to find ways to raise new capital for the final blow off top. But the early retail are definitely going to still be over here, right? I know because I've been reached out to by some people that I knew from way back. And obviously they know I'm in crypto, and they're kind of in this phase of here, very, very scared to buy dips. You expect that delusion and new paradigm phase comes in at the top, where those late retail market participants are, of course, wanting to borrow money and do anything they can to get more and more crypto, right? So food for thought over there. At the end of the day, we can use actual real data like this to determine, are we in a bubble? Is the bubble blowing right here, right now? And the answer is probably unlikely, right? Now, we will get a pullback. Of course, guys, we will get a massive pullback. Remember, we've spoken about the Elliott wave count, where we're currently in that fifth and final wave of the macro cycle right now, and we're busy playing out wave 3 of that wave 5 cycle, right? Which means we still need to put in one more dip where we have the wave 4 dip, and that basically becomes the last buying opportunity, where you then finish off wave 5 of wave 5, right? So eventually there is going to be a pullback, but if you look at this over here, the daily exchange volume is still very powerful towards the upside. Everything is running up long and strong over here, and we're flipping that $100 billion mark into support so far, right? We need to give it a little bit more time to continue to monitor this, but flipping the $100 billion daily exchange volume as per the 7-day moving average over here is going to be very, very important. And to give you again perspective, this is what your 2018 cycle looked like. This is what your 2021 cycle looked like. Now the exchange business has become mainstream in terms of opening up crypto exchanges and on-ramping users. We also have a massive paradigm shift where, up until recently, so anytime before this year, the majority of the US was very, I don't want to say against crypto, but they definitely weren't for crypto, right? In certain times, they were actually against crypto, and the on-ramping into the market was a very, very difficult thing, right? And that goes beyond the US. It was Europe as well. And now for the first time, we're seeing the US shift that paradigm into being very, very pro-crypto. So with that being said, of course, the expectation would be that as the market cycle becomes bigger and bigger, we should completely overshoot what we saw in 2021. And you can look at how much 2021 in terms of the daily exchange volume overshot the 2018 cycle, 2017 bull run, right? And I can tell you the 2017 bull run was absolutely wild. It was completely parabolic. Altcoins went to the moon and back, right? And we should expect that we should see something very, very similar, right? So theoretically, this could be the very, very start. You could theoretically be, if you're comparing to this cycle over here, right? I'm unable to zoom in and snippet that, but it would be like being in this zone over here, around $27 billion in exchange volume as you were testing those previous highs. That would be the equivalent, and you can see what came next, right? From that, of course, 27 billion, this ended up running all the way up to 166 billion for a massive multiple. So could we see something similar? I do think it's possible. Now, I wouldn't get too bearish yet as Bitcoin dominance continues to fall. Again, I've mentioned this multiple times. If the Bitcoin dominance, however, was coming into very, very, very critical areas of support, such as the 50% level over here, 50% in terms of the Bitcoin dominance, or down towards the 40% level in terms of Bitcoin dominance, then that would be an area where I'd start to get very, very cautious. But I do want to remind you, you don't want to bail out of all of your positions that, you've waited for this altcoin season essentially for 3 years. And literally the moment it starts, you bail out of your position at the first sign of a little bit of a pullback, right? This is not going to make you profitable in the long run. We've spoken about the timing factors and how you could experience up to potentially even 300 days of an altcoin season when you compare to what happened in these previous cycles. Yes, there are little green jumps in between, right? There are little bounces in between, which would rotate, of course, altcoins back into Bitcoin, but that's typically short-lived within that altcoin season. And we expect that the true altcoin season only begins sometime next year, which is why we've spoken about a couple of months ago how you would be looking to be fully allocated into the altcoin market over the next 30 to 60 days. At that time, we're talking about over the course of November and December. By the end of December, you want to be exposed to the altcoin sector in anticipation of a major altcoin season. Now, the other thing that we can speak about over here is when you do study something like the altcoin market over here, this is one of the first times ever that you're going to have regulatory clarity around altcoins, especially within the US, right? Given the Trump administration and them trying to create a crypto-friendly space. Whereas in the prior cycles, we didn't have any of that, yet we still experience these massive altcoin seasons, right? Despite the uncertainty of where things stood as a security or commodity or a risk asset, what exactly is crypto, right? That was the narratives in the prior cycles. And now for the first time, you might actually have a little bit more clarity, which means you could really see these things run. You could see Bitcoin dominance drop, possibly even below these levels over here, which was 40%, especially over the next coming years, right? If you have a longer term perspective and you're thinking further out, that absolutely could happen. So all in all, that's what we're looking at. Another reason that I won't personally be getting too bearish over here, despite a little bit of a pullback, and instead I'm looking to allocate more into the market, is also because of this, right? The ETH BTC chart. Now, if the ETH BTC chart, of course, we're trading, towards some of our upper target levels over here around 0.069 or 0.08 in terms of the ETH to BTC ratio, then I would maybe be getting a little bit more cautious. But the fact that instead of this topping out, we're more bottoming out, this is a reason to be bullish on the altcoin sector and rather look for opportunity. So again, in today's show, we'll talk about, some of the coins that a lot of the meme coin millionaires, or at least as the title suggests, future millionaires are establishing positions in. We'll have a look at that today. We saw a massive run from 𝗕𝗬𝗕𝗬𝗕. There are some other opportunities out there as well, which we will talk about, right? So others, if you look at the others chart, also another reason I won't be getting too bearish is this is a powerful trend, right? This is only just broken out. And of course, you will be putting in wicks just like every single other week over here. If you look at each week, it did start coming towards the downside, flashing price, and then immediately following the week on towards the upside, right? So could it be that this is simply just going to be the wick of the week low and we're going to break through by the end of the week? I think that the chances are higher than not. And that's not my opinion. It's basically just looking at a trend, right? At the end of the day, it is getting heated, absolutely, in terms of the weeks that we've experienced towards the upside. For the others chart, this refers to the true altcoin sector. You got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, probably 8. And then on the 9th one is probably where I start to get a little bit cautious. But things can really, really get sent in that type of an environment. We typically see price stalling out anywhere between 7 and 9 candles, right? So again, to remind you, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and this is the 6th candle, which means you could have this week and next week as upside opportunity before even thinking about a pullback, right? So we'll continue to look at things. As it currently stands, I guess, I'm not feeling too bearish because my portfolio is up massively and all of our trades have worked out, right? If you look at the trades that we have on the table over here, there's not one single trade in the red. And I even just added a new position on 𝗕𝗬𝗕𝗬𝗕 over the course of the weekend, up $3,000 on that trade. This went up as high as 30%, I think, yesterday. But I'm looking to play a longer-term swing trade over there. So I will continue to hold these positions. Now, just to remind you how quickly things can shift from BTC season into altcoin season and how aggressive they can get. If you look at the 2019 to 21 cycle, we saw things run from 300 billion straight to the $1.3 trillion mark, basically giving you around a 4x return, right? A 4x return in quick succession. This happened in a very, very short amount of time. So what would that look like currently? Well, this would essentially send the altcoin sector from currently trading around that $1 trillion mark all the way up to 3.2 trillion. So as we witness the altcoin sector run up into those trillions of dollars region, right? That is for the total 3 chart, which is over here. That would be essentially looking at something like this. Total 3 breaking out over here, flipping the prior highs into support, and then aggressively marking up towards this region. That's the area where you can start to get a little bit more fearful within the market. This is what we've previously seen in terms of a rally. And we spoke about, due to the US clarity and friendliness towards crypto in this cycle, maybe you could see a bigger flow of money. We've also spoken about the 18.6-year real estate cycle and how you're leading into that blow off top. The stock markets are also all trading at all-time highs, and usually that greed tends to flow out, right, from real estate into the stock market. Stock market goes up higher, and some of those profits will rotate into crypto to get bigger gains, right, because you start to run out of opportunity within the other sectors, right? So we keep an eye out on that. As it currently stands, this is really just the start. Remember, every time you look at a prior high like that, this becomes your pivot point, where essentially if you can get back and hold above this, you should see rapid acceleration towards the upside. So as it currently stands, due to the fact that our entries are so much lower, it's not really any cause for concern. I can only assume that most of the viewers who are watching, who have been following for a long time, are in the same positions, and your trades are up massively, right? Hundreds and hundreds of %. So continue to hold these trades over here. If you are brand new and entering into the market right now, of course, you need to be a little bit more precise on each of the entries that you're looking at. Also, I do want to remind you, you have a chance to win one full Bitcoin. Everyone has a chance to win one full Bitcoin by opening up the exchange links, which are listed below in the YouTube. You can go through over here. You'll see it says win a Bitcoin, right? Win a Bitcoin with Banter Bubbles. Click on these links. Each of these exchange links that you open over here will issue you with a user ID. We use that user ID to basically draw who the winner will be, right? So the user ID, once we have that, you can come through over here, and then you can say get ready, and you can type in your prediction for what you think Bitcoin will be by the 1st of January as the clock strikes 12. I would say something like 110,000 just as a guess. You need to put in your user ID over there and then sign in and submit, right? Whoever comes the closest as the clock strikes 12 will win one full Bitcoin, right? You need to take 10 trades just in out on each of those exchanges to get the full Bitcoin. If you haven't done that, just to be warned, you'll then only receive half a Bitcoin. So a nice opportunity over there for you guys. Okay, let's continue. Looking at the Bitcoin weekly chart will always provide a massive amount of information, right? And when you look at this weekly close over here, the weekly close was still relatively strong. So again, it's not to say that you can't come down on this candle and fill some of these inefficient candles below. Remember, anytime you see large wicks over there, it signals inefficiency, and sometimes price will come back to test those levels. We'll get a bit more precise on the daily time frame for where those levels remain and where support would be. But essentially, if you can see this week's candle closing up higher, it's possible it could move all the way up to about $110,000, which was still the measured move target that we gave the last time. But the key thing that I wanted to outline over here is, if by some chance the pullback does start to take place now in a very serious way and you lead into a major dip, these are going to be your super strong areas of support, right? Very, very, very strong. And now we have multiple levels of confidence when outlining where the next major support is, right? Firstly, we've taken the entire move over here. So this is what I was talking about, where I said, this part of the move, we're in the final wave 5 Elliott wave count, but this is now going to be your wave 3 of 5, right? Wave 3 of 5, wherever that tops, right? Maybe it tops at 120K. Then you're going to lead into wave 4 or 5, which would be the next major pullback, at which point you, of course, want to attempt to buy the dip, right? Wherever that support may come in. If it's here, if it's here, if it's here, that's your final buying opportunity before leading into wave 5 of 5, which is basically the blow off top, the end of the cycle. Okay, it's not, okay, let me not say the end of the cycle, but major, major top, where you're probably going to then correct for months and months, and then you could reset the count. Now, when you use your Fibonacci tool, right, you need to anchor from the most recent low, the origin of this entire move, which would have been that wick low that occurred at $49,000 on the 5th of August, right? So we have a confirmed low. We do not yet have a confirmed top. The Fibonacci tool moves each and every single week until such time as you do have a top. But under the presumption that it's a worst case scenario, and we always have to assume what is the worst case scenario. The worst case scenario is that this is the top, right? And we're going to continue to pull back. You can see the massive amount of confidence that you have over here in the form of your 21 weekly exponential moving average rising towards the upside, which just so happens to line up with that 50% level over there, which we know is very, very significant as a major area of support. And in strong trending moves, you technically find support first at the 0.382 and then expect a bounce out of that level, right? So with that being said, if this were a confirmed local top and we did actually pull back, you're going to find massive support over here between 77,000 and about $80,000 to $83,000. Again, I do want to remind you, if we go higher this week, we have to adjust this further and further and further. And next week, it will probably be a different price. But right now, as it currently stands, you do hold a lot of confluence in this area, right? So if we throw in a price label over there, there's your 21 EMA coming in at 77,691. And remember, the 21 EMA on a weekly scale gauges the overall bull market trend, right? If price is above it and it's angled towards the upside, you're in a bull market. You want to buy every single dip and you want to continue to hold on to your positions. If price holds below it and it starts to curl over and angle downwards, you're in possibly a bearish market and you want to exit. Remember this chart that we just looked at over here in terms of the total market cap bubble risk? Well, we can do the same thing over here by looking at Bitcoin. And this chart actually measures the overextension of price away from that 21 EMA. And according to the bubble risk over here, again, we are in the yellow, right? We're in the yellow zone over there, which means it's not too overextended yet, right? We expect those peaks. If you look at the peak over here, on total market cap, remember that one was slightly off, but if you look at it specifically on Bitcoin, you do get into that red zone at the exact peak that occurred in 2018. It occurred as well again in 2021. It occurred over here in 2014 and in 2013. So pretty accurate indication of when we too overextended. We're not there yet, right? We're not there yet. I see some of the comments over there with the bull moon. Yes, we will talk about the bull moon as well, which is coming up, right? The other thing that I want to look at over here is, of course, the USDT dominance. Now, you could easily put in the spike as I'd previously drawn in over here. If you do get the spike towards the upside, that probably does lead price to roll over and possibly test some of these support levels, right? But the test into the overhead resistance over here is likely your last chance to get allocated before the next major run, and then this will roll over. Personally, I wouldn't want to be holding my breath waiting for something like this to happen, because this could just as easily continue to grind into the 3.6 region over here and then basically just drop straight through, right? And remember, I've taught this a lot before, and I've shown it in real time how it works. When price grinds into a support or resistance level, it usually leads to a big breakout or breakdown, right? So if you're grinding into resistance and you're really, really pushing into there like that, usually you lead to explosive moves. The same is true if you are coming down hard like that, aggressively, and you hit a key level. Usually, yes, it leads to a big bounce. But if you come into a key level of support like this, and you just grind and grind and grind, that usually leads to a big breakdown, right? So far, this is looking closer to what would be grinding price action than it is to coming in with extreme velocity and getting a V-shaped bounce, right? So monitor this USDT dominance. If it breaks this line over here, you're going to see massive amounts of new money flowing into the markets, and you're going to see altcoins begin to rally aggressively, right? So do keep an eye on that, right? Then we also have this chart over here, the 9 and 18 exponential for Bitcoin. You can see price respecting that 9 exponential, currently bouncing off. And we spoke about why this week would be important for 2 weeks, right? For bulls to continue to defend price, because we are coming up to, of course, that bull moon. We've seen how it's worked plenty times before. You should print that by the end of the week. So that's going to be around Sunday. If bulls can just survive until Sunday over here without a massive breakdown, I think that the momentum will begin to shift and optimism will come back into the market from next week, right? So this probably creates an opportunity for you. You can also see there you have Bitcoin obviously creating the Monday range as it currently stands. Here's your key range level on the 4-hour time frame. We want to see price immediately get back above the previous month's high. That's basically it needs to get back above $100,000 and maintain that. If it can do that successfully, big psychological SR flip and onwards and upwards. So that is still respecting the ascending triangle. Remember, ascending triangles are bullish chart patterns that have this has an upside target of about $108,000. Continue to monitor this. just some additional short-term support. If lost, you know you have that inefficiency of this wick coming in at 90, let's just give you the exact level, $94,560. If lost, you have much more major significant support coming in over here at about $90,000. So that's for the short term. Remember, the short term bleeds into the higher time frame like this over time, right? So first, you need to look to the low time frame. Strong level of support, 90,000, expect bounces along the way. If you were even to get there, right? I'm not necessarily even saying you'll get there, but in a bearish case scenario, you do something like this, set in a lower high over there, and then you can look towards the weekly chart, which would then be targeting, you know, some of these key fib levels. I'm not necessarily looking at that trend as your friend till the end of the trend. Chances are going to be higher that you're probably going to hold this and continue to run up, right? Recently, what we've also been seeing is that the proper breakout of these ascending triangles is occurring closer and closer towards the apex. We saw the same thing happen on XRP, right? XRP ground right into the apex of that ascending triangle, and then it went vertical. We also, I'm not going to bring the chart up right now, but we've also seen the Solana BTC chart is also grinding into the apex of a symmetrical triangle, which the expectation would be, right, that should break towards the upside because Sol has been stronger than BTC in more recent times, right? So in terms of meme coins, this is what we're witnessing, right? As per the Bonk guy, this guy's taken our massive trades on specifically on Bonk and a couple of other meme coins, right? If you look at this over here, earlier this year, Van Eck added all 4 meme coins to its meme coin index, that being 𝗕𝗬𝗕𝗚, Bonk, 𝗓𝗘, and 𝗬𝗢. And over the course of the weekend, we actually just saw 𝗕𝗬𝗕𝗚 take out the $11 billion mark, right? There it is. $11 billion, $11.15 billion market cap. And it's been speculated, you know, that by a lot of people, including Bonkai, that you're going to see a lot of these coins trade into the $10 billion plus mark. We've seen exorbitant valuations from the meme coins in the 2021 cycle. And to give you a reminder, we expect volume to eclipse this completely. We're also in a cycle where meme coins are the enemy of VCs and the best friend of retail. And the reason for that being is because you don't get drowned in tokens over time, right? Because the majority of the tokens and the supply is already released into the market. So you don't have these VCs that are dumping coins on you and basically promoting them to retail, making retail buy. So meme coins are the best friend of retail and the enemy, of course, of the VCs. So if you look at the list over here in terms of the coins and their current market caps, well, you already have Doge sitting at a $65 billion market cap, Shiba Inu 18 billion, 𝗕𝗬𝗕𝗚 now in a third, 11 billion. But then there's opportunity over here where you're probably going to see many of these trade up into the $10 billion mark. And this creates a pretty easy trade potential, right? So I'm just going to very, very briefly outline the ones that I'm looking at for the sake of time. Many of them I'm already deeply invested into as it currently stands. And anyone who's been following along would be too, right? So 𝗕𝗬𝗕𝗚, right? You can look towards 𝗕𝗬𝗕𝗚𝗧. We'll talk more about that probably in tomorrow's show. I'm going to show you, come through to tomorrow's show. I'm going to show you trades that I will be taking very, very soon. I just need to find the proper entry, and I don't want to share them now and then they pump to the moon. But very, very similar plays to 𝗕𝗬𝗕𝗚𝗧, right? Another position that I'm busy building along on right now is dog with hat. You can see 3.6 billion. This probably goes 10 billion plus. You have Bonk, almost similar to dog with hat, sitting at 3.4 billion. Also probably goes 10 billion plus. We have 𝗓𝗘 at 2.5. I think it's okay. I'm not personally in 𝗓𝗘 right now, but I think it's a decent play. Brett is my number 1 pick when it comes to the meme coin sector right now. And it is currently my biggest position, forming nearly 10% of my total crypto portfolio, sitting right now at $2 billion market cap. A very, very easy 4 to 5x return from here. And that's because Brett is, of course, the best exposure that you're going to get to Base, right? Which is Coinbase's chain that is essentially a layer 2 built on top of Ethereum. MOG, you guys know, that's my second biggest position at 1.5 billion. I believe this could easily run way past $10 billion market cap. So in terms of the discount to potential, well, you can see Brett and MOG. This is part of the reason why these are some of my biggest plays, and a high risk to reward return opportunity. 𝗕𝗢𝗡 as well, highly affected by Solana since it's a meme on Solana. So if Solana BTC breaks out of that symmetrical triangle and runs a turbo towards the upside, you should see a huge move. I think $10 billion 𝗕𝗢𝗡 is definitely on the table as well. There's an opportunity over there, right? Turbo. Speaking of turbo, let's quickly go back to turbo over here. You guys will remember turbo was one of the only trades that was slightly down for us for a couple of weeks, and this is what conviction looks like. This is what holding on looks like. Currently up almost $10,000 on this trade. A sudden turn of events, right? Who would have thought? Well, of course, we looked at the charts, right? We were getting a big SR flip on a high time frame, and this one's just started to leave the station. So I think turbo does present massive opportunity as well, right? I think that GOAT is worth looking at. So currently sitting at $713 million market cap. This could at least run into the billions, which means still plenty of upside. We're not even at $1 billion yet, right? So I think that's one worth looking at over there. GigaChad as well. I have exposure to GigaChad. You guys know it. What else? What else is worthwhile looking at? FOG. I think FOG could easily run into the billions. This is probably one of the most discounted ones that I don't want to say use the wording that's a sure thing, but I think high probability is the better word to use or better word choice. High probability that you see FOG run into multiple billions. Whether it hits 10 billion, I'm not so sure, but multiple billions, I do think is a very, very high probability, and trading now at 409 million. Well remembers got into this very, very, very early, right? So in terms of sitting or looking at least at the coins that are top ranked, these are some of the ones that I'm looking at that have the highest chances of making it, right? So we can have a look at some of them, or look at the charts, drop your chart requests as well. Tomorrow, I'll probably give a little bit more of an in-depth approach, because I still need to find the perfect entry for you guys on the other coins that I'm looking at. There's two of them that I haven't yet mentioned, and I will mention tomorrow. I'll also let you guys know in the whale room probably later on this evening. So stay tuned for that, right? Okay, we can have a look at a bunch of the coins. Of course, we are putting in a bit of a pullback. We must talk quickly about Solana just in terms of the levels. I do think that in terms of risk to reward, a lot of the smart money will be looking for trades like this right now. I'm simply just showcasing this to you in terms of risk to reward, because this is often how you should think, right? So a lot of people will be looking to build long positions down into this region, anywhere between, if you were lucky enough to get to 205, you would have to see Bitcoin break down probably into the 80s to 90s, low 90s, high 80s to get that kind of a move. But nevertheless, kind of establishing a long position within this range over here, you could very, very easily target on Solana up to $400, right? So in terms of risks to reward, this is kind of what you're looking at. It's still a very, very favorable trade, right? Almost a 7-to-1 risk to reward ratio, despite the small pullback that you're getting over here. And that's without even looking at Solana versus Bitcoin, which is obviously set to bounce and outperform. Another coin that I do want to talk about as well is 𝗬𝗢, getting a little bit of a pullback over here. We have been focusing also, of course, on those fib levels. So just quickly, let's just quickly outline those fib levels for you over there. If you do get a major pullback over here, your strong support on 𝗬𝗢 is going to be coming into the 50% level at $3.70. I think this one has at least one more run towards the upside. And I do want to remind you, we took the 𝗬𝗢 trade quite a long time ago. This was using a trading bot over here, of course, on Bitget. So currently some huge profits on here. We have the $52,000 current balance plus 7,132 𝗬𝗢 using a bot where we establish our trades between around that $1 mark, right? We took an earlier trade as well, but you can see this has been doing arbitrage with small buys and sells along the way, right? So it's doing spot arbitrage. And then, of course, I've got on HODL mode over here where I'm basically just banking the 𝗬𝗢. So you're getting the price appreciation plus the arbitrage that it's doing using a grid bot between all those various different buys and sells, right? If you do want to learn more about that, guys, there is a link below to Bitget. There it is. You can click that one over there, sign up, go check out the bots. I recommend be careful with the futures bots that's using leverage. If you do decide to use a futures bot, use very small amounts of money that can obviously, and only go with the trend, which would be long, right? Don't go short using futures bots. Running shorts, you're going to get absolutely wrecked over there. There's some automated ones over there that, have been back tested and they run automatically, right? So if you don't know what you're doing in trading, you can use those. Again, I'll emphasize, rather stick to the spot ones. Those are going to be much, much safer for you. Okay, let's quickly run through what else we have over here. So, okay, 𝗓𝗓 is one that I told you I'm seriously looking at. This is 𝗓𝗓 measured against Solana, mostly just oscillating. But I think in the next leg up that you see, you're going to see if Solana does break out towards that $400 mark, it's pretty much inevitable that you're going to see 𝗓𝗓 completely outperform, right? So this is part of the reason why I'm probably going to risk some of my Solana and start to build a big 𝗓𝗓 position. I'll update you guys each and every single day. The guys in Whale Room have already been informed about this. The other thing I wanted to update you on was the massive trade that we took on 𝗕𝗬𝗕𝗜𝗕, right? Remember, we dropped the Whale Trades article over here showcasing, how we were using ETH options for very, very low price and basically gaining exposure for possibly a 241% profit. Well, essentially that trade's complete, right? So there is an updated article for those of you who do want it. There's a link in the description below. You need to go through to Whale Crypto Trades, click on that, sign up. You'll get access to all the articles. We've just given a follow up. So the gains are done, right? This shows you what you need to do next. There's a recap of the trade. We're buying these options for very, very cheap. Let's quickly go back and see how much did we get in on these options for. This was, let's see, here we have it. So the strike price was only $350 per ETH, and we're targeting $4,000. Smashed it, right? We smashed it, and we actually were only planning on getting this by sometime in March. If you want to trade options, there is a link in the description below. It'll take you through to Deribit. We'll be doing a follow-up video very, very soon, possibly this weekend. So please do stay tuned for that. We might get one of the 𝗕𝗬𝗕𝗜𝗕 professional options traders on as well to showcase some of the trade opportunities with you over there. So the link's in the description below. Go and check that out over there. And then, yeah, let's continue. What else have we got? Quick update on Ethereum. Let's quickly see Ethereum. So you're getting that SR flip on ETH on the daily. This is still very, very powerful. Again, this is another reason that personally, I don't want to be trying to short the market over here. Of course, we've seen how these ranges work before in the sense that you get those deviations and drop back down. If you do get that, I'll be targeting the range quarterly, which is going to be the middle of this line and this line, which is going to be coming in around that $3,400, right? So for ETH, that's what you'd be looking for. But ultimately, when you leave a long-term range like this, usually you get an explosive move and straight continuation. So it's normal that at the prior highs that we saw in March that you might find a little bit of a pause, right? Also, you can see if you do put in the pullback, there would be a cup and handle formation, right? So we'll keep an eye out on that on specifically on ETH. Make sure that you subscribe to the channel, follow us each and every single day, guys. I will keep you up to date with each and every single thing. I think let's leave it over there. All the links are below. We have to cut it off. We have another big meeting happening right now. I'll jump on with you guys tomorrow and the rest of you in Whale Room. Have a great day and cheers for now, guys.